Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now Captain Finance himself, Sully.
Wherever you are watching, wherever you're listening, and them here parts, we always say a big howdy to you, and welcome to the Big Biz Show.
Nobody else says it.
You told me right before we came on the air, don't forget to say a big old howdy to you.
Howdy to you.
Costa, Mary Godwin with you once again here on the Big Biz Show, otherwise known as None Your Business, which means you're going to sit and watch and listen, and you're going to take everything we feed you, and you're going to love it. Before we go any further, let's say hi to the day trader Quattro, gentlemen.
Hey.
James East, how are we doing on this? How are we doing on this fine day?
It's a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day.
Beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It is always great to see your face, Brian's face, Trace's face, sometimes behind your giant head, and Mark. Mark is sitting there at the
Mark
keyboards.
Hattersley.
Best of the business. 1/4 of the world famous Sln band. So great to have you guys here in studio. Quickly, let's bring in our market analyst of the Big Biz Show, Mr. Howie Font.
I have some splaining to do.
Howie, how are you, bud? Good to see your face.
Hey, buddy.
How are you? How are you?
We're doing.
Anything happened? You invited me back on. Thank you. So glad to be on None.
Of course we did. You're a charter member of the None Business Club, so you're
not the same without you.
grandfathered in. I know we're going to have you for 2 segments here, and on the other side we'll talk about all the fun tariff stuff and what's gone on with the markets the last couple of days. But you're in New York City, right?
That's correct. Yeah, happy to be here.
You know who was just in New York City? Mary Godwin was in New York City. And you know what? She spent a large portion of the time down in the financial district.
Like only an hour.
Howie, where do you work again? Down in the financial district?
The kids call it Fide-Eye.
They did down in
Fide-Eye.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. Go ahead. We
were down in Fide-Eye, but only for like an hour, and I think your phone was busy. It didn't patch through.
You mean Howie doesn't have call waiting?
Yeah, he doesn't have call waiting. It was a busy signal. I called from a payphone.
Holy moly.
So I'm sorry that I missed you in New York City, but I was definitely waving to you from Fide-Eye.
I'm torn up. I was actually across the pond, so that's why I was in a different.
I got you.
Different telephone booth. My bad there. But no, did we see? I mean, we talk about bulls and bears all the time on the show. The reason for that is there's a bronze bull.
I missed it.
No, you didn't see that?
Well, we were on a tour with one of the colleges, Pace, and so it was very, walk from one place to the other. So I didn't get to explore too much, but
no, that's great.
We'll be back next time.
Exchanges, all that. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
You know what's funny about the Wall Street Bull statue is that, Mary, you've got to make sure you check this out next time you're in New York City. It's a massive, it's probably a statue that weighs a couple of tons. It's made out of solid bronze or whatever. Yeah. And it's got a very dark patina on it because it's a very old statue. Except there's one part of the bull that's very, very shiny. Like you can walk up to it and you can look into, you can walk up to both of these things and look into it with your face and see your reflection. That's how shiny that part of the bull is. Howie, have you ever done that, taking your picture with the reflection?
Is this going somewhere?
Yeah.
With the why it's shiny?
I'm just saying.
Listen, I can neither confirm nor deny. I think you might be right, though. I think you might be honest there.
Yeah.
Everyone's so inspect.
It's a part of the anatomy of the bull, Mary.
Oh, okay.
Let's say it's an.
I was thinking it was going somewhere.
It's a symmetrical part.
We're just gonna say the Wall Street Bull is intact and shiny.
Oh, I get it now.
All right, on the other side, let's have some fun talking tariffs and all that good stuff. Howie will stick with us. You stick with us well. Big Biz Show rolls on. 100 Studios here in beautiful, sunny Southern California. It is the Big Biz Show. Those gentlemen on stage, the day trader Quattro, best in the business. Here at the bar, it's Costa and Mary. Special edition of None Your Business on the Big Biz Show. We are joined by our market analyst currently, Howie Font, coming to us live from New York City. Probably the epicenter, Howie, of a lot of angst and gnashing of the teeth and wailing and crying and whatnot because of the tariffs. Start us off with this wonderful talk.
Talk to us.
Yeah, I think it's mostly the doll face from Homer Simpson the last couple of days. People are just saying, "Oh, what? This can't be real." I really think there's a lot of befuddlement in New York this week. You see a lot in the reaction that people are having with their price targets for stocks, and they don't know whether or not to trust it, and should we sell or just wait it out? Is this lasting a week? Is this lasting a year? So basically, I didn't want to talk about this on None. I wanted to do something more fun, but I don't think there's any avoiding it. So let's talk about it.
Well, Howie, I have friends on both sides of the political spectrum. Yes.
Okay.
And I hear, in my feed, a lot of negativity and fear and OMG was going on. And dark stuff actually about what's the behind all of this. And then I come in and I talk to friends here and they're like, everything's fine, it's gonna be fine, and he's doing this on purpose and he knows what he's doing. He's
definitely doing it on purpose. That's true.
So, I don't know what to believe, and I'm just not trying to live in fear, but I will tell you it is obviously fear-inducing on many fronts. So, what can you tell me? Can you help me out?
Yeah. So listen, we've talked about it a lot on the show, but there was this uncertainty in the market. Then we got some certainty, and there was a reaction. And now there's still uncertainty because we don't know, how long this is going to last, how quick negotiations are going to be, and maybe we're just going to take a one-time hit. If we trust the market's reaction today, we're a little bit up. We're not up a lot. It's just as Sully would say, a dead cat bounce. So maybe that just means this is the end. We dropped a lot, but we're going to stay here. That would be a way where, it doesn't really hurt the market, but then the effects on the actual economy are going to roll in as, the supply chain feels the effects of the tariffs. So that's one way it might happen. But let's kind of go back and just explain what the tariffs are. A lot of people think that countries pay tariffs. No. Businesses and people pay tariffs. So a tariff is a tax that the U.S. government imposes on companies for bringing in goods into the United States. Companies then pass that on, just like any other business cost is passed on and shared. Payroll tax, half is paid by the employer, half is paid by the employee. But if you don't think that 12% that the employer pays affects your salary, I don't know what to tell you. Minimum wage, Sully makes this argument all the time, passed on to the consumer. Obamacare passed on to the consumer. Sales tax, of course, passed on to the consumer. So we know that that's going to increase, in that sense, inflation, because we're going to have at least 10% across the board. China, Mexico, Canada, at least for non-NAFTA products, we're going to have these large tariffs. Non-NAFTA is a big hole, by the way. That's kind of our saving grace is NAFTA right now, because that is exempted. But I'd also like to talk about the tariff levels. And sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a rant here.
No, it's okay, Howie. As you talk about the tariffs, though, I think please help us understand that what do you think Trump's thinking is by levying these tariffs against these other countries? What is his end game as well?
Yeah, that's really important. That's really important to think about. So I think one of the best arguments, that there are a lot of things that people are saying is 4D chess that he's trying to do. Right. No, I think it's as simple as the president saying, listen, the United States is not being treated fairly. The United States has an inordinate amount of market power, and it's going to use some of it even if that means we have to take a little bit of medicine in the short term. That would be something I don't have a problem with. I think a lot of people don't have a problem with. Yeah, this market dynamic is not amazing, but if that's what was going to happen, that no problem.
Gotcha.
If he's doing that, then the idea would be, we make it serious that this is the new status quo. There are now these trade barriers to working with the United States. And if you want them to come down, you come to the table. You come to the table fast, like Vietnam or like Taiwan or South Korea today. Japan has a negotiation team already. Benjamin Netanyahu already offered a zero tariff deal between the United States and Israel. The issue is this is not the grand bargain that we need. This is paying $100 for a $10 bill. I mean, we don't need to solve our trade deficit with Vietnam so much. I mean, we do need to handle it with, China, of course.
Sure.
The EU. We have non-tariff issues like.
Howie, I'm sorry.
I'm going on and on.
No. Has the EU come to the table as well? Because I saw someone the other day announcing that they use the phrase 0 for 0, which everyone's kind of, oh, great. That's what we're hoping for.
Mm-hmm. So 0 for 0 is not enough, according to the White House. They have many heads of state roles in the EU, but the president of the EU said that they would be happy to go to a 0-0 for industrial goods. I think there's going to need to be a larger discussion there with the EU, more of a free trade zone. Elon Musk has come out and said the same thing. It would be great if we could go completely zero on all goods. The EU is based on subsidies, though. They famously protect French wine and butter, and they protect industry in Germany. So they're kind of built on these artificial protected markets. So they're going to be very hesitant to give them up. So I think that is worth taking a crack at individually and in a focused way. And then China's way more important when it comes to protecting our intellectual property, fixing, our supply chain, making sure we're not reliant on someone who could be a potential adversary or at least rival. That doesn't make much sense, right? So if they were more limited in scope, makes a lot of sense. One of the things that kind of the internet made fun of, and I'd love for you guys to tell me about the funniest things you're seeing in your feeds is, there are islands now that have tariffs but no people. So we
hey, listen, those penguins have been getting away with murder.
Yeah, how are they affording all these tuxedos? I agree. I agree.
All that free fish they're eating. Howie Font is our Big Biz Show market analyst. Howie, back something that you said where 0 for 0, most of us who really don't know the ins and outs of tariffs to the degree that you do think, okay, that's great. But if the White House is saying, no, 0 for 0 is not good enough, are they still looking for that pound of flesh because other countries have been, for the large part, taking advantage of us for as long as they have?
Yeah, so I got to push back on the taking advantage of us. That is the White House's claim. I think there is a fair way to make that case. I'll make it in just a second. But I just really want to start out by saying having a trade deficit is really no problem in and of itself. Okay. The joke I made to Sully is, Greg and I have a trade deficit with, industrial strength hair gel. I mean, we keep giving them money and they keep giving us hair gel.
Okay.
And we get no money back from that industry.
Right.
Okay. Grocery stores, you give them money, they give you food. It's the same kind of thing. We don't need. One of the things that worries me about the tariff negotiations that are happening so far is Vietnam has actually been a great place helping us because they're taking what was China's market share and bringing it over to Vietnam. So that's kind of helping us diversify. And then if they lower their barriers, that means that goods that the U.S. sends to Vietnam are going to be cheaper. So, like, what do we send to Vietnam? Like, what does the U.S. make that Vietnamese citizens buy in huge quantities?
Barbecue? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Hair gel?
Australia provides all the meat on that side of the planet. So,
Yeah, Mary just said hair
I mean,
gel. Do we send them hair gel?
we could, I think they make a lot of that in Japan. Darn. Yeah, you're making the point.
Hey, we have about a minute left. The market's rebounded. Okay, go ahead. The market's rebounded a little bit today. Is that going to continue? Right. You think, or is this just going to be like nebulous as we go?
Yeah, this is a super nebulous time. This is going to be historically volatile, I think. I think that we're probably going to see some moderation of the tariff talk, and I think we're probably going to bounce around these market levels. We definitely took a step down. No more rate cuts. It's going to be a down year, probably, is my prediction.
Here's the Big Biz Show market analyst.
Making us feel good as always, Howie. We love you.
You feel better?
No.
Feel better? Okay, great.
But I love you and I miss you.
Did it, Howie. Keep it right here. Much more to come with the Big Biz Show. From the Loft 100 studios, Big Biz Show rolls on wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Thank you so much for being along for the ride. Mary Godwin, Costa here with you. Another edition of None Your Business.
Rocking out with these guys. We got a new song today.
Day Trader Quattro killing it as they always do. Joining us right now, Mary. He has quickly become one of our favorites.
Love him.
He's the founder and CEO of Horizon Aircraft. Of course, their ticker symbol, HOVR. And this guy is, he's a former fighter pilot. He's done a lot of things. He's a pilot, and he's got something that we all want.
Yes, and it makes me feel like the Jetsons. Like, I feel like the Jetsons is coming into our lives very soon.
He's bringing the Jetsons to life.
And I love it. You guys need to learn that theme song.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon, welcome back.
Good to see you again, Brandon. How are you?
Great to see you folks. Really appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Hey, do me a favor. I don't know if we've ever asked you this before, the times you've been on the Big Biz Show, but the current aircraft that you're working on, and we'll talk about, what's coming down the road. How long is it taking you to get to where this is your quote unquote finished product for the moment?
Yeah, so it's taken a couple of years to get to where we are now with a large scale prototype that's actually flying that you see, on your videos there, which is a pretty exciting milestone.
Right.
And now we're working on the full scale aircraft. So in 24 months from now, we will have a full scale technical demonstrator. That's a 6-passenger and 1 pilot, 6,500 pound beast of an airplane ready to start flight testing. From there, we'll already be into the certification at that point. And then another couple of years and we'll be cranking them off the production line.
And how many passengers can fit in the one? I see one behind your head there.
Yeah, exactly. So 6 passengers in the back.
That's 6.
And 1 pilot up front, which is pretty unique in the marketplace. There's a lot of 4-place and 5-place, but ours is 6 gusting 7 sort of people in the back, which is really nice.
Brandon, with this type of vehicle, and you have talked about it on past visits with here on the Big Biz Show, but the absolute, I guess, endless applications for an aircraft that powerful, that reliable, but still that small and kind of able to get into those quote unquote nooks and crannies that a bigger aircraft's not available to get into.
Well, it's a great point. So essentially you have a helicopter type capability, so it can take off and land vertically. All it needs is a helipad of any type or a parking lot, etc. And so you can take off and land from anywhere virtually. But when you're traveling en route, you're going about twice as fast as a helicopter, and you're saving about 75%, so 75% less cost per unit mile than a helicopter. So, for any mission where you think a helicopter that flies twice as fast and is 75% cheaper per unit distance is going to be useful, and there you go. So, take medical services, for example. So imagine, heaven forbid, your family's in an accident, you're all okay, but, someone needs to get medevaced to a hospital. One of these things can show up and get one of your loved ones to a hospital in literally half the time at, again, 25% of the cost. And so, and extend that into other emergency medical services, transporting critical radioactive isotope cancer drugs or organs from hospital to hospital, and then extend that out to disaster relief type missions where, heaven forbid, a big storm system goes through, knocks out all the power. Our aircraft is hybrid electric. So it can operate independent of any electrical grid, and you can get these aircraft to location to start saving lives and start helping people in, again, half the time and in much lower cost than a helicopter would be.
Brandon Robinson, founder, CEO of Horizon Aircraft, ticker symbol is HOVR.
Hey, Brandon, speaking of the medical usage, because you were talking about it could fit 6 passengers, but then can it also be easily transferred into, like an emergency with a bed and the equipment that you would need, like in an ambulance has?
Yeah, so great question. As a hybrid electric aircraft, first of all, it has the power generation on board to be able to support all that equipment very easily.
Wow.
We've designed the cabin, again, now that it's 6 people in the back, the cabin is also large enough, and we've insured that to house all of the equipment, a stretcher, 2 emergency medical technicians, paramedics, if you will, that can look after an injured patient and all the support equipment. So it's perfect for a medical evacuation mission. We've designed it to be perfect for that mission. And we've got a lot of special engineering under the hood for that.
Brandon, what's the altitude max, or is there a set altitude that this aircraft is going to do the best at?
Now, like in theory, it's a really powerful machine. It could go pretty high and pretty far. We've limited it operationally to 10,000 feet because it's unpressurized, which means that you'll be very comfortable in the sort of 5,000 to 8,000 foot range. It can go up to 10,000 feet, and that's very normal for a machine of this size.
What there's obviously other people, other businesses in your space, but you are heads and shoulders above all that competition. What is it that sets you guys apart from the pack?
Well, we like to think of ourselves as complementary as well, but so back up maybe 3 or 4 years, having a hybrid electric system, so a gas burning engine on board that leverages, gas is still about 30 to 40 times as energy dense as even the best batteries. Having a gas powered engine on board was less than popular. And so most of the people in our sort of sector went all electric. Fast forward 4 years, and the realities of having an all electric architecture for a flying machine are starting to become pretty challenging for some folks, and ranges are shrinking.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong; these folks will do great work in the 0 to 50 mile range, but our aircraft having a hybrid electric power system, so think again gas engine on board, can go 5 to 10 times further, fly twice as fast, and carry a lot more stuff. Whereas the other aircraft are carrying a lot of batteries on board, so they have to carry less stuff, unfortunately, and are limited to those shorter ranges. So instead of intra-city, so between a skyscraper and a skyscraper within a city, we can go between cities at a regional scale, so up to 500 miles quite easily. And at our speed, that's only going to be a couple-hour trip. So take a 15-hour car ride and compress it down to a couple-hour or even less plane trip. That opens up a lot of interesting regional transportation opportunities.
And can you talk to us a little bit about, any challenges that you're facing going into commercialization and, what the next 2 years or so are looking like? And can pilots just easily certify and become able to fly your aircraft if they're used to what we have now?
Yeah, so a lot of challenges, but with each challenge, there's a lot of opportunities, right? So one of the challenges that all these companies face, like ours does, is certification. Now, again, getting the Wayback Machine and go back to 2021, there was an open question of whether some of these architectures could even be certified to begin with. Fast forward to 2025, and now a bunch of great work by the likes of Joby and Archer and some of the front runners on the all-electric side. As it turns out, they've spent a lot of money and they've done a lot of lobbying, and the FAA and other regulatory bodies have agreed on a certification framework. So now the question is not if these aircraft can be certified, it's only a matter of when, which is nice. We get to take advantage of that as a second mover. We walk into a space that's very well known now from a regulatory structure, and we have an easier and I say clear path to certification, which is nice. So that's on the airframe side. Now on the pilot side, another really great question. And the answer is nobody knows quite yet. But there are a lot of, again, opportunities for the FAA and for Transport Canada and a lot of the regulatory bodies to do something good. It could go all the way from maybe just having a vertical endorsement on your commercial ticket from a pilot's license perspective. I hold an airline transport pilot's license. Maybe I go to Horizon Aircraft and I learn to fly the vertical portion and get checked out on the type of aircraft, and I get a little vertical endorsement on my ticket that says you can fly this aircraft in the vertical mode. Ours flies like a normal airplane for 98% of the mission. So what that means is it is completely flying just like a normal aircraft. You can see it in the background. Wings are closed.
Have you flown it?
I've flown the demonstrator, the small one, and I want to be one of the first people to fly the large one.
He's Brandon Robinson, founder, CEO of Horizon Aircraft, ticker symbol HOVR, as Mary likes to say, bringing the Jetsons to life.
I love it.
In over 175 countries and all the ships at sea on the American Forces Network, as always, a shout out to a brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces. What you do, what you've done for us. Big Biz Show rolls on. Those gentlemen you hear performing on their musical instruments, that's the Day Trader Quattro. Costa and Mary Godwin with you. Today, another edition of None Your Business. Our good buddy Dan Negroni, who is the author of 6 Steps to Understand, Engage, and Maximize Next Generation with us. He's a life coach. He's a professor. He's a consultant.
He's very tan.
Keynote speaker.
I'm tan. My God,
He's
yeah.
tan.
Red
And
man.
I'm as white as my pants are. I'm so pale, and I'm like, oh God, I wish I could.
Well, on
be that
the
tan.
weather now, we are at the point now where it's like strip off everything, get out there in your t-shirt and your shorts and start absorbing the sun.
I can't. I'm too pale. I'm just my skin. I either fry or I just.
I'm
don't
like
even
you.
go anymore.
I pink like a fine roast beef.
Yeah.
So, but
You don't turn. You just 5 minutes and I'm tan, red,
Tan.
orange, whatever you want to call
my
it.
wife has that wonderful olive Italian skin, and she just same thing. She just
Yeah.
browns right up, or I'm just sitting there going,
It's
kill me.
the first question people ask me. You just said it to me. Why are you so tan? You're so tan.
Yeah.
You're out living life.
I get to live here.
Yeah, exactly.
How lucky are we?
Right,
True.
I mean,
exactly.
like it's
Very
the first
true.
week where you're like, oh man.
It's what you have to tell yourself when you do your taxes.
Yeah.
Exactly
You live
right.
Here in San Diego.
Yeah.
How you
exactly.
been?
Good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's our Gen Zers doing as far as I know that there's a lot of people are getting called back to the workplace, and there's a lot of companies that are saying, hey, you guys have been remote because of COVID, et cetera, but let's try to get 4 out of the 5 days here now in the office and type of thing.
I think that's going on. I mean, look, what's going on with the economy, especially in high tech, there's a contraction, resizing.
Right, because AI is. I mean, people are talking about worrying about their jobs being taken.
Yeah,
right,
whether
with
it's
AI.
tech through AI, we're really trying to figure out how to get the most out of all of the employees that we have and how to keep them.
Sure.
Right? So 2 things. How do we get growth from them and how do they get to grow? And then how do we keep them? And are we the right size? So I really find clients looking at how do you make performance hum? Kind of like you have coaching is more sometimes seen as a negative, but now we're looking at it just like if you have an athletic coach, how do I pump up the performance? And so technology is really helping us because we have tons of data to be able to see who's working, who's not working, how's it working the right way. And so performance solutions are up and companies are focusing on growth and resizing and shaping, and Gen Zs are the laboratory of figuring
They
it
really
out.
are the
Yeah.
laboratory, and there's such a huge number of individual beings, I guess, human beings that, hey, this is, and you've talked about this before ad nauseum, you have to deal with them, find out what makes them think, makes them tick, makes them positively work in a way that's going to help your company. It can't just be I walk to school both ways uphill in the snow every day, my way or the highway type of mind thinking.
Look,
Are you sure we can't do that?
well, we do it, by the way. All of my
Thank
clients
you.
do it.
Yeah.
People matter and relationships matter,
Yeah.
and the only way you're going to get young people to perform well is to teach them. And it's as simple as that, and mentor them. So whether I'm in the classroom, whether I'm in the boardroom, the story is the same. How do we figure out what is the best solution to pump up performance? Because when you pump up performance for the company, you're pumping up the individual skill set. And so it so makes sense. And I think we're at a point where we're starting to cross using technology and AI, like you mentioned, and we're ready. Like we're ready to look at the data and we're ready to lean in and say, okay, this person, yes, and here's what I need to do to help them.
Can I ask about, I know the recent thing that came through Elon Musk, and I know he did it at X, and then he was doing it with the federal employees, was you need to tell me once a week what you're working on and why you're important.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that as a strategy?
Well, I think as a strategy of getting, look, the number one thing you can do in the workplace is demonstrate that you give value to the workplace. People don't know the value you give usually, and so you have to tell them.
True, yeah.
So actually writing down those things at the end of the week and saying to my boss, hey, I've done and accomplished all these things. What's the priority for next week? And what do I need to do better?
Yep.
I think is a great habit.
Yep.
It's called coaching and mentoring.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's deploying it, analyzing what they're doing. But I think as a practice of us focusing on what's the value I as an individual, as a Gen Z, bring to the workplace, amen, yeah.
I think it's
Love
great
that,
to have
yeah.
a little self, looking at what I'm doing and saying, okay, what did I accomplish?
Yeah, reflection.
Yeah,
is,
reflection. That's
where am I? What am I doing? How could I get better? That's all the stuff that drives performance. And probably Elon Musk is saying, we got to create some data to figure out where they are, where they're going. And I think that is right in line with what the workplace needs, which is how do we create growth for individuals and for our companies? And how do we keep the people that we have here super happy and growing?
This is our good buddy Dan Negroni, speaker, CEO, coach, consultant, chief launch officer. Of course, he's also an author, professor. His book, 6 Steps to Understanding, Engage, and Maximize Next Generation Leaders in the Workplace. His website as well. Check it out, dannegroni.com. Dan, as the workforce that's kind of in place now gets older and is being phased out, the Gen Zers, the younger people,
The old people croak or leave.
pretty much retire or
Retire, yeah.
bloop, and it's this new group that is coming in. Are their numbers such where they could potentially reshape and revolutionize what America's workplace has been in the past?
Sure.
Is it already happening?
Yeah, I think it is happening, and I think that's where we need to be a little bit more intentional.
Okay.
We need to be intentional, and we have to have some goals about how do we want to shape this together, and what does it look like, and what are we going to do to help them, and what do they need from us? I mean, it's bi-directional, the request to figure it out. Absolutely, there'll be, I think, Gen Zs and millennials will be at least 75-80% of the workplace in the next couple of years. And so, we're leaving, and we're making room for them, and this transition, largest transition of wealth in the world, and the largest transition of, brain power.
And I can see where it'd be hard for some individuals, because I recently went to see a dermatologist, and the dermatologist that walked in, I swear to God, was 15 years old. But I'm thinking, I go back.
I know her.
Yeah. Do I know your parents?
Yeah.
But I kind of went back to that. Wait a second. This person went through med school. They did everything that we told them that they have to do, just because they look like they're, Doogie Howser or Punky Brewster or something like that. And this person was
spot on, right?
Out the door, boom, helped me with what I needed, and I walked away thinking, all right, I found a really cool young new dermatologist.
They're super transactional. They're super quick with detailed information. They're great. I mean, it's just we look old when we look at them. There's no question about it. Very
We are old.
Right? Yeah.
So I want to transition really quickly, because you and I have talked off camera about this theory that's sweeping the nation, the let them theory.
The let them theory. Mel Robbins, my favorite.
Which actually, I just saw a poem that was written years ago that Mel was quoting. Did you know? Anyway, that's a side issue. But I am using this concept of the let them theory.
How's it working?
It's great.
What's working?
It's with my daughters mostly. And also maybe people around here.
So we should share what the theory is. The theory is
share.
to let people do what they want, and you control the controllables.
Yes.
And so it's actually
essentially the Serenity
super
Prayer
easy,
for me,
right?
actually. Essentially that.
Right. So let them do what they want, and then you work. There's a second part to it, which is let me. Let me figure out a way that I can deal comfortably with the let them. And, we've talked about the generations, giving them the power to let them do their things, let them learn, let them fail, let them be themselves. I mean, I'm struggling it with my own children now, trying to, I want to tell them what to do and give them, a 12-step process for how to get their life together. Right. And I just have, lean back on let them figure it out and don't.
And let them fail or succeed. And maybe their way is going to be just as good or
Why
better.
do you think it will be just as good? I have a theory.
Because everybody has a different methodology to get to an end result. And I don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers. We all have a different way, but we're all going to get there or we're not. But
so I'm going to sum that up.
Yeah.
I think it's just about learning and experience. And so when the young dermatologist comes to us and says, hey, I know they've had experience and they've learned, and that's what you're giving them, which is the best gift you can give them, and it's a super strong part of coaching or creating performance solutions. So to bring it right back around, there's so much brilliance in the simplicity of let people do their own stuff and make their own decisions.
Right, so you can't let them be late every day.
No, you can't let them do anything that hurts them.
Right, or the company,
or
the business.
Exactly.
Right? Can't let them steal or do.
But other than that, you can
let them do their things their own way. You're not.
No.
Look how uncomfortable he is.
No, I'm not uncomfortable. I just, going back to the young dermatologist, I said, hey, how do I get rid of this, ugly growth? And he said, cut your head off. So I was like, okay, that works. Dan Negroni, author of Chasing Relevance, 6 Steps to Understand, Engage, and Maximize Next Generation Leaders in the Workplace. Check out his website, please, dannegroni.com. Special guest and friend of our show. Always good to see you, brother.
Thanks,
all right,
Dan.
keep it here. Lots more to come with the Big Biz Show. Big Biz Show rolls on. We're inside the Loft 100 studios here in Southern California. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, we always appreciate you being along for the ride. Of course, that is the Day Trader Quattro, DTC as they're known, on the dark web. Best in the business. Back here at the bar, it's Costa, Marybrook, Godwin. Nunya business rolls on. Before we go further, shout out not only to the DTC for what they do for us every single show, but behind me and in front of me are people that you never see who are absolutely the spine and the cornerstones of this show, starting with our executive producer, Jared Coleman, and everybody else here. There they are. Look at them. There they are. Yeah. Usually they're smoking cigarettes and eating donuts, but today they're actually working, which is nice. But in all seriousness, we do not have anything as far as the show is concerned without everybody who every single day comes and
what about our camera crew right here?
Exactly.
They're pretty important too.
No, that's right, everybody. And
you
we're
turn the camera around on yourself?
So lucky to have you here with us. I cannot wait to talk with John Vandermosten. He's the Senior Life Sciences and Analyst with Zacks Small Cap Research and Unboxing Biotech. And we always get him on, talk about what's going on in the tech world. And
some cool stuff right now.
Some super cool stuff. John, always great to see you. How you doing? All right.
Talking about the fun stuff I was reading about today.
Well, let's just jump in with the dire wolf. Because okay, when you think about it, we're gonna get Jurassic Park, aren't we?
I know. That's the first thing I was thinking. Actually, I was looking at this.
Explain for the people at home that don't know. Explain what's going on with the dire wolf.
Yeah. So there's this company called Colossal Biosciences, and they're actually here in Dallas, which is pretty interesting. And they have been working on a number of extinct species, trying to bring them back. So what they do, kind of like we saw in Jurassic Park, is they find DNA and then they extract the useful parts of it and then fill in the other parts that don't exist with the closest living relative of that animal, and then create that animal. And they did that with the direwolf. And I think probably most of us who watched the Game of Thrones, remember the presence of those guys on there. So they're actually living in reality now with us. There are 3 of them, I think.
Where are they? They're in Dallas?
The town of Dyer. I have no idea where they are.
Well, they did not disclose where they are, but I think they said that they're somewhere in the northern area. I mean, I think wolves like colder weather, so. But yes, they're somewhere in the United States, I think.
Yeah, they're not.
Pretty cool. And the other thing is they're actually working on woolly mammoths, and I don't know about T-Rex, but that's what I'm hoping for next.
Well, let's extrapolate it out a little bit. So you take the dire wolf DNA, and I'm sure they take the DNA from its closest wolf cousin or something to fill in the sequence.
Nice.
Okay. As we know what happened in Jurassic Park, they used the frog DNA, and then the dinosaurs change sex. And as Jeff Goldblum, famously says, nature always finds a way, breaks down the barriers and comes through. Did you look at this, John, and think to yourself, boy, man, they are treading in an area where I don't know if the text and the life sciences can handle what could possibly come out of this?
They need an island or something, orbiting the Earth so that it can't get to us. But it's funny because there's probably a lot of applications outside of bringing back extinct animals where this could work, or be helpful. So I think it's exciting not just because of what they've done, but some of the other potentials. But if you go on their website, you can see some of the other things they're working on. And again, it's a company called Colossal Biosciences, and they have a few locations throughout the U.S., but I believe their headquarters is here in Dallas.
John Vandermosten, Senior Life Science Analyst, Zacks Small Cap Research and Unboxing Biotech. John, as you look at Colossal, is this helping their bottom line? Is this something that maybe investors are looking at and saying, hey, whoa, maybe throw a couple shillings at it?
Well, I think it's a private company. I wasn't able to find anything public on them. And, they have a pretty impressive board of directors. So, they're probably going to incubate for a while. And when they can get something that can generate some money, they'll probably go public. But the applications, as I said, the applications are pretty broad in what you can do with this. And showing that it works is pretty impressive with, live animals.
Hey, John, I'm going to switch gears totally and completely away from that because that's kind of freaking me out to think about Jurassic Park. But
you're afraid of the T-Rex, I know.
Big time.
Or the Velociraptors. What's the dangerous ones?
Exactly.
I'm having nightmares tonight. So, but let's talk about drug development as it's relating to China because they have this high volume approach, and what's going on there, and will that surpass where United States is, or has it already?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what they're doing. If you go back, 25 years, they weren't really doing much there. But I think starting in 2016, they had this 5-year plan. Probably everyone knows that China.
Oh, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, and they were going to allocate something like 4% of GDP to developing life sciences or biotech. I'm not sure the exact definition of what they were going to focus on, but they spent a lot of time and money building that up. And now, 8-9 years later, they've made a lot of progress. There are hundreds of small biotech companies in China. They revamped their whole regulatory system, so it's a lot more easy to navigate than it was before. And in some ways, they've almost surpassed what we're doing here in the United States and in Europe. And I think where they've made the most headway is in being a fast follower. So you remember the automakers in Japan. Back in the 80s, they kind of took what we did here in the United States. We innovated here in the United States. And then over there, they kind of perfected it. So I think that they're trying to do something similar in China with, so what they do is probably everyone's heard of checkpoint inhibitors like Keytruda. So they'll take one of these PD-1, PD-L1 molecules, and they'll do like 5 or 10 different versions of it, looking for the best one. And then when a big company is looking to have something in that area, there's a lot more to choose from these companies in China. So it's they're making a lot of progress. And, with the slowdown in investment here, especially with those NIH cuts that we heard about, it probably requires a deeper look at what we're doing here so that we can keep up.
John, what about the tariffs and how that affects the biosciences, not only in China, but obviously here with, Johnson & Johnson, Lilly, companies like that?
Yeah. So, one of the things that was the goal of the tariffs was to bring companies back here to the United States, right, for manufacturing. That's going to be a very long-term process. And in the meantime, a lot of the inputs for the pharmaceutical products may see much higher costs. Now, I'm to be honest, I can't keep up with what's going on with the tariffs.
Nobody can.
One day they're up, one day they're down, one day they're on this, one day they're on that. So I'm not really sure where we are right now. But even if you don't tariff the exact pharmaceuticals, there are a lot of inputs and kind of other products that go alongside them that would have those extra costs. So, in the end, it's gonna mean more expensive drugs for people in the U.S.
John Vandermosten, Senior Life Sciences Analyst, Zacks Small Cap Research and Unboxing Biotech. John, appreciate your time as always. And speaking of time, that is it for us here. For Mary Godwin, I'm Costa, the DTC. Everybody on the Big Biz Show, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.